Okay, dear viewers, thank you for joining us. You're watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is our weekly program, Talk to OBN. In this edition, we're going to discuss on matters of Horn of Africa, and I joined by long-serving Kenyan politician Farah Maalim. Farah Maalim, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. You're welcome, Adis.
Okay, how do you see the overall security and stability of the Horn of Africa, given the situation in Sudan, Somalia, and Ethiopia this time?
It's a bit worrying. It's very, very worrying in the sense that we managed to get over with the insecurity in the north of Ethiopia. The Tigray region is no longer as bad as it was a few years, some little while ago. And now we have a problem in Sudan. The problems in Somalia seem to be increasing also. There is a lot of insecurity now in almost all the regions in Somalia. And, we've just come out of an election ourselves. The beauty of it is that our elections are, we don't get into, we never descend into that kind of anarchy and chaos and bloodshed and the rest of it. But our democracy is also having its own trials and tribulations, but we are hoping that things will get better. So on the overall, it's a mixed bag. Sudan is very big. The Republic of Sudan is going through some very bad times. And there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. The South Sudan also has had its own challenges. Ethiopia, which has got 120 million people, we have problems in the north is sorted out, but Amara region, Addis Ababa, there are a lot of things that are going on that have the potential of also easily getting out of proportion or escalating into bigger things. But we are hoping for the best. The worst is over now for Ethiopia.
The northern Ethiopia was, in conflict over the past 2 or 3 years. And many people used to call warring parties for peace negotiation. And a negotiation led by African Union brought some paradigm shift, and peace is somehow being seen. What is expected from both sides, from the federal government and from the Tigrayan side, from the TPLF, to end the conflict once and for all?
Well, I think right now the most important thing is both to continue with the implementation of the terms of the agreement that already includes disarmament, demobilization, basically securing peace itself in every sense of the word. And then the next thing is the reconstruction of Tigray itself, so that the many people who have been affected by the war, who have suffered a lot, too many people who are displaced, then can also begin leading a normal life. So I think Tigray at the end of the day is going to be good. People did not expect it to immediately go through the kind of a peace transformation that they're going through right now. We are hoping for the best. I don't think there's going to be a problem in Tigray for the foreseeable future. And the central government was very magnanimous in the sense that they did not want to capitulation, you know what I mean? Basically, total capitulation of Tigray itself and the forces that were against the center, which in a sense also maintains and allows them to come down to the table with some kind of a dignity, which they did now. And I'm hoping for the best in Tigray. My worry is in the Amara region and basically the Oromo Amara, tension that's there, and a number of other ethnicities in Ethiopia also are not pretty much in the best of shape, and as far as relationships between themselves is concerned.
Okay, the conflict in Ethiopia, in Sudan, and terrorism attack in Somalia, all this are made through mercenaries of its own nation, and they're conspired attack and mission happening in these areas of the Horn region. And for how long would Africa go with these conspiracies and hidden hands from near and afar?
I don't know. I think the African Union has done a very good job in Ethiopia, in the Tigray-Addis Ababa conflict. It's my prayer that the adventurism that's being done by the regime, the breakaway regime in Hargeisa, which has also waged a war on another region, the SSC region or Khartoum region of Somalia, in the erroneous and essentially adventurous notion that they are fighting for the integrity of Somaliland. There's no state called Somaliland. I mean, Somaliland is an ambition on the part of the center of what was initially the north of Somalia. That does not include the clans in the north and does not include the clans in the south. But using brute power and force to try and force them also into this some kind of an uneasy union is a problem. And Mogadishu is no longer the center it was. I mean, you have a president and a system there that at very best would make some pronouncement, but at the worst does nothing. And that has also kind of spurred the absence or the void that was created is being filled by regional forces. Right now, in the Jubaland, there's a conflict in Gedo region. In Hirshabelle, there's a conflict also between the ethnic communities or the clans there. In the Puntland, there's a problem between Mogadishu and Puntland now. I mean, everywhere, there are issues there. In South Central, there's a problem between the center and South Central in a place called Barawa. So Somalia has suddenly exploded into one conflict after the other, which are mainly clan conflicts. And then you add that to the mix, into the issues of Al-Shabaab, which also is very much a political society, organization. They pretend to be a religious organization, but they're not a religious organization. It's a political, economic organization, which is acting more or less like a mercenary, which, in my opinion, is in the service for certain paymasters. But whatever it is, the bottom line is that Somalia is looking like it's too far from stability. We thought it was stable a few years back, at least 1 year back, but now it's becoming very bad. And then, of course, in Sudan, the two Sudans also are suffering the kind of issues that they're suffering. So, on the overall, the only countries that can be safely to be said without any conflicts in the region are the Greater Horn of Africa, Eritrea, and Kenya. I don't see, and Uganda by extension, because Uganda is also part of the IGAD community. So we have a problem. We have a problem in the region, undoubtedly.
Okay, Sudan is in a very drastic situation this time. And I mean, when the time goes on, things are getting worse and worse. What are you expecting in the next few days or months?
Well, I personally have always held the opinion that the problems and conflicts in Africa are premeditated. They are the works of the superpowers and the Western countries that are powerful. And the idea is that you create chaos everywhere and you can get the resources of that country easily and cheaply. I mean, that's what they did. The West came and got rid of Gaddafi, destroyed what was basically a very stable country. And right now you have warlords everywhere. You have Haftar, you have all these other groups also, and they're all fighting for relevance there. At the same time, the European countries and America is cutting away the oil and the gas of Libya at almost nothing. The same thing they did also in Iraq. They destroyed Iraq, and right now they are taking the oil of Iraq without having to pay anything. If they pay something, it's something so little and paltry you cannot imagine. They've also messed with Syria, and Americans are controlling the Syrian oil pipeline there. So this is not something that just happens, or that something happens because of the internal conflicts. All these conflicts are one way or the other created and premeditated and essentially the works of the big powers in the world now. So we have a problem. We have a problem, yes. And I don't know when we're going to get over that, when we shall decide to solve our own problems. And we have not been doing that so far. IGAD is good. I mean, under the current leadership of IGAD, they have gone out of their way to try and create peace between these countries. And we're hoping they continue doing that.
Ethiopian government and your country, Kenya, are trying to resolve the conflict in Sudan. Do you think this would be, successful?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure because it looks like Sudan is not very happy with Kenya. At least the general there, the General Burhan, or the faction of General Burhan is not very happy with Kenya. They think Kenya took a partisan, partial, position on that. And so they already put a question, they objected to the idea of Kenya being at the center of these peace deals. And they want one of the other countries to take charge because they say they don't trust Kenya. So that is also another diplomatic tiff, which I hope can be resolved one way or the other in the not too distant future. But give credit to where credit is due. Our friend Workere has worked very hard, Gebeyehu, to try and bring IGAD together and create an environment that essentially is for peace.
What about the African Union? Do you trust the African Union in solving the Sudanese case, like that of the case in northern Ethiopia?
Well, African Union has not taken such a powerful, proactive position on that. I think whatever the reason is, they seem to be dragging their feet, and I think that's a mistake. That's a very big mistake. African Union should take a leading role in that, and put all their persuasive skills and everything into place so that they resolve this problem of Sudan. Without that, then the whole region is in trouble.
Okay, what about IGAD? And you've been appreciating, the leadership, headed by Workana Gabayo and that of others. IGAD, actively has been participating in resolving conflict in the Horn of Africa. And so many applauses are coming from different directions in connection with the workers being undergone by IGAD. Are you, what is on your mind regarding the performance of IGAD?
Well, I think IGAD is doing very well. IGAD has been transforming itself for the last couple of years now, and as opposed to the original IGAD we knew, which was basically nothing but a department in the TPLF Minister of Foreign Affairs in Addis Ababa those days, and Meles Zenawi and his subsequent office, the ones who assumed that office. But now it's independent. It's working on its own. It's doing a good job in Sudan. It's doing a good job in Ethiopia. It does a good job in wherever there's a conflict. They're trying their best in Somalia. So I can only compliment Dr. Workene for doing such a good job.
By the time Ethiopia was, having the conflict in the northern parts of Ethiopia, some troops of Sudan took a territory in Al-Fashqa, and that place is occupied by Sudanese troops now. But the Sudan is in turmoil this time. Ethiopia refrained not to do the same thing by advancing to the Al-Fashqa. What do you comment on this?
Borders between African countries are very fluid. There's no question about that. And I'm happy that Ethiopia did not respond to that conflict with force, and is giving an opportunity to mediation and talks to resolve that problem. But I think there's a problem. In one case, you could say the people who live in that place are people who have Sudanese origin, most of them. Or the presumption on their part that this was an area that was encroached on by Ethiopia. So whatever the thing is, whatever the historical perspectives are and persuasions are, the best thing is that it's always should be done through mediation. But I think it's not such an easy thing. It's a little bit complicated, both in terms of history and in terms of the status quo now, yes.
Recently, Al-Shabaab tried to create chaos in Somalia and tried again to infiltrate into a border with Ethiopia. And this one is for the second time recently. What initiated Al-Shabaab to do this time around?
To be honest, the intelligence information I have is that a lot of the people who are fighting in Al-Shabaab are from the neighboring countries. Some are from Ethiopia, some are from Kenya, Burundi, Uganda, Rwanda. They're from all over. The designs of these people who are the financiers, in my opinion, also does not have the best of intentions for Ethiopia. Chance has it that they were going to go through that and they were going to get into the Ethiopian highlands and they were going to go into areas where it's going to be difficult to flush them out and become a permanent thorn in the side of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. Fortunately, that did not happen because the community at the border, the Somali clans at the border, did a fantastic job, and the lead police in Ethiopia also did a very good job. So the Ethiopians in that Somalia Ethiopia border, the ones on the Ethiopian side, they fought that with everything they had, and they destroyed them completely in their entirety. But it's a problem that can easily recur anytime, and you never know, because the possibility is that Egypt, which is on the other side and has issues with Ethiopia because of the Gad, the great dam. You never know. There could be certain issues there, and it's the global and regional geopolitics is what actually determines and directs what happens in these countries. To be honest, I mean, it's nothing to do with the small people in those areas who are the ones who are planning and then executing those things. They are mostly people who have the resources and who have the wherewithal to create the problems in Africa. And like I told you, the more there's a conflict in Africa, the easier it is to take away its own resources. And that is one thing I can tell you, the Western countries will always exploit. The British, the Americans, the Germans, all of them will exploit such a situation.
A couple of months ago, leaders from Kenya, Djibouti, Somalia, Sudan, and other Horn nations met in Somalia to talk about regional issues. And they joined effort to continue Al-Shabaab attacks. And do you think they would succeed?
I think if there's a coordinated attack on Al-Shabaab, Al-Shabaab is just about a couple of thousand ragtag, not that well equipped young boys, you know what I mean? And it's easy to flush them out completely as long as the right things is being done. But I'm not sure if the major world powers would want Al-Shabaab out. They use Al-Shabaab for the very simple reason they want that anarchy and chaos and insecurity to be there for the longest, so they can now then take away the resources of this country. So so-called terrorists are not terrorists who decided to become terrorists on their own. These are all people who are managed by the major, and I say in quotes, the major powers in the world.
Shall I proceed? Okay. Last week, Kenyan President William Ruto called on Africans to use their local currencies among each other rather than the dollar or other Western currencies. You comment on this? I mean, your comment on this, please.
Yeah, it's very true. Africa needs to trade with itself. Africa needs to have an intra-Africa trade. And they need to use their own currencies. And that basically is going to eliminate the so-called Western or European and other Eastern countries' stranglehold on the continent itself. So I support what our president did. He's a serious Pan-Africanist, and I'm very happy with him. And I hope he continues with that, because the parliament will help him, will support him fully.
Okay. Of course, you've commented on the peace security, the peace and stability of Horn of Africa this time. Comparing with the past, I mean, this Horn of Africa is in trouble or safe now?
Well, there is an element of light at the end of the tunnel, and I have reason to be optimistic. I'm very optimistic. A lot of problems are there, but I'm optimistic that sanity will prevail and we will get peace in the country, and we'll get the inter-Africa trade going very well also. That way we will eliminate the permanent dependence we have on the Western countries.
Some African leaders, including Ethiopian Prime Minister, are recently stressing the need for Africa to have permanent representation in the UN Security Council. Is Africa trying to resist the imperial imposition of the Western masters, do you think?
Yes, yes, yes. It has come at the right time. It should have been there. And Africa must have a seat in the Security Council. It's the only country that's not represented in the permanent in the Security Council among the permanent members. And Africa needs to be the only continent, and that continent must be represented.
Among the ambition of African Union Agenda 2063, this African Continental Free Trade Area is very pressing. How is its implementation in the Horn of Africa? This African Continental Free Trade Area, specifically in the Horn of Africa.
Well, the integration of the Horn of Africa is very, very important. And the earlier and special envoy for the integration of the Horn of Africa is created by IGAD, the better. And I think it's going to be a trailblazer for the rest of the continent. And progressively, then we can go to the Central Africa. Because right now, East African community has gone all the way to Congo. South Sudan is a member of the East African community, and so is Congo, and Somalia hopes to join it. And all these countries, except Congo, are already members of IGAD. So I have a feeling that both IGAD and more so IGAD, actually, more than even the East African community, is going to do a good job in coming together and creating that the free trade between themselves. And that's the way to eliminate the economic dependency we have on the Western and Eastern countries.
Okay, due to the interest of time, we are going to wrap it up here. But before leaving the show, if you have any remark, message, please go ahead. Finally.
Well, my message is to the countries in the region, and there is need for the leadership of those countries to emulate the perfect example that's which has been demonstrated by the likes of Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Afwerki, my Kenyan President William Ruto, who is a Pan-Africanist. I mean, he has really done way above our expectations, because we're happy with the way he's trying to integrate the region right now. So we tell them, you have our support, continue, and let's get over with this integration as soon as possible, so that then we can have the free trade between ourselves, and we can eliminate the economic dependence and solve the problems that are there, mainly whatever, terrorism and the rest of it, and insecurity. Let's solve it together.
Okay, Honorable Farah Maalim, thank you for your time. I appreciate on behalf of OB and Horn of Africa. Okay, dear viewers, this brings you to the end of our edition. Dear viewers, this brings you to the end of our edition for today. See you next time with another edition. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Bye.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that, yes.